It seems like every time YungBlud hits the news or people are talking about him online, it is never a positive story. They're either hating on him just for the way he conducts himself, or they are questioning his authenticity, which is pretty sad considering comparatively to most modern day artists, YungBlud is pretty unproblematic and actively tries to be a good role model to his young audience. Oh goodness, do we have a fun conversation ahead of us today. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name is Cowder's Life, and on this channel we do video essays talking about things on the internet, and then we will discuss it as a community down in the comment section below. So if that sounds like fun for you, please feel free to subscribe. We're trying to beat this here old ratio. Yippee! And if you're not new here, hello again, friend. And today the Beyblade I'd like to show you is my Wallborg. It is missing its stickers, but I still love it all the same, and it's got this cool blue tip. Yeah, sweet. Well, that's today's Beyblade Wallborg. Now let's just dive into the hot topic of conversation online that has been YungBlud's BludFest, his festival. This festival's aims was something that sounded very amazing on paper. You know, celebrating community and inclusivity, being a fun place where people could authentically express themselves, all whilst being price competitive. Zooey mama, sign me up. That is a very good price for a big festival these days. However, whilst this festival was created with good aims and spirits, it did, however, run into a few issues. From the long wait times where fans were left dehydrated and exhausted, to the critiques of YungBlud's authenticity amidst his anti-corporate stance. There's a lot to unpack, so let's get into what happened at BludFest and how it reflects on broader issues for festival management and what this all says about YungBlud as an artist. Talking point 1, the festival management issues. It is no secret now that there was many logistical issues with BludFest. Dozens have gone onto TikTok to document their experience at the festival, saying they waited up to 4 hours in the queues to get into BludFest. Some even said they were put into one queue, got to the front of that queue, and then they were told they were in the wrong queue, so had to queue again in another queue. It does sound like the organisation to get into this festival was really poor due to a lack of communication from the organising staff. Some fans even got so dehydrated and affected by the heat that they eventually just went home early. By the time they got into the festival, they were so overstimulated that they were just like, yeah, I've got to go home now. Which is such a shame, right? Because I feel like everybody was there just because they were so excited to be part of YungBlud's community that he made. I think the thing a lot of these fans would want to make clear, and I think I also want to raise pretty early on in this video, is that no one is directly blaming Dom, YungBlud. I think we all understand in this discussion that his intentions were there and they were good. He wanted to create this fun experience for people. It's just the organisation and infrastructure surrounding the festival was lacking. Dom is a very inclusive man. This is known within his community. He creates a space where all are welcomed. No matter who you are welcome in Dom's world, which I think is a real good message for people. However, many have come online to say they also had accessibility issues at Dom's festival, which is obviously must be a real shame to the people, because in spirit, Dom is this very accepting, progressive person. However, the reality was the event wasn't as inclusive as people thought it was going to be. Now, of course, I really do want to stress again, this is not aimed at a critique at Dom, much rather festival management in general. I think a lot more conversations need to be had about the health and welfare of festival goers. The security team that were letting people into the festival admittedly did try and get some bottles of water for people, but when there are hundreds and hundreds queuing for hours, it is clearly not going to be enough. This festival had a capacity of like 65,000 people. They should have just thought ahead and had water stations and sunscreen stations throughout the queuing system so that people could have been protected. But this just was not the case. And I know some may say, well, Cal, clearly when you're going to a big festival, you know you're going to be in a long queue. You should bring your own sun cream and water. Yes, I agree. You know, bringing sun cream and water for the queue and then just throwing them in a bin when you get to security is a pretty well-known thing for people to do. But as an organisation and as a big company like the one that was running YungBlud's festival, they shouldn't just make that assumption, and they should actually care about the people that have paid money to go to this festival and actually have some basic welfare, sun cream and water. That's not going to break the bank and ruin profit margins for this festival. And speaking of profit margins and money surrounding the festival, everybody knows the tickets were very fairly priced at £50. You're getting a lot of big acts there. I don't think anybody was complaining about that. I think they're all grateful that in this world where it is so normalized for artists to charge hundreds and hundreds of pounds a ticket to go see them live. Dom offered this place where you could go to a whole day festival for £50 and see multiple artists. On paper, this was amazing. However, in reality, with the logistics, it wasn't actually so cheap. Some of the people that needed to park at the festival due to accessibility reasons, said that it cost them over £20 to park there for the day. Suddenly that £50 ticket adds up very quickly when you're paying for that parking, and also people have documented that the food and drink inside the place was very expensive. Again, not so much a critique at Dom, but rather festivals in general, how these companies will come here and charge premiums to the customers because they know they have a monopoly and the customers can't leave the festival and go grab food somewhere else. They're gonna get it from within the festival grounds. I really don't think this is a name and shame Dom, drag YungBlud's name through the mud situation. It's more that people just want their concerns and feelings to be heard. They go to this event that's been marketed as this safe space, this community environment. Why is it that the people that did go were not given basic care, and some literally just didn't have adequate accessibility? I think this is a chance for a real good conversation about festival management in general. How, yes, we all understand under capitalism, these companies are all here to make a profit, right? And make lots of money and do their thing, right? But it shouldn't forego the basic needs of the people that are attending their events. And they should be more empathetic and understanding to the various needs of the people attending. Another talking point I'd like to discuss surrounding YungBlud and BludFest was I saw many people making TikToks basically clowning on YungBlud, saying he's inauthentic. He is a portrayal of a working class, relatable human, despite being backed by £1,000,000 record labels and such. People that criticize Dom's authenticity take this clip.
Fuck the corporate bullshit!
And they're like, but YungBlud, you're putting on a big festival and making money where you are also selling your clothes that are expensive. And I kind of think this is just a dumb point. Content creators argue that Dom just profits off of this punk ethos, this alternative ethos, without actually being a genuine contribution to the scene. And I think a few years ago, I may have agreed with that point, but I really don't agree with it anymore. YungBlud is now at a size where he could charge hundreds of pounds for tickets to things. He could have completely capitalized on this thing and made it very expensive, and people would have still gone because of the name he is and the audience he brings. We live in a reality where people are having had to have discussions of whether they can separate the art from the artist. Oh, can you still listen to this artist because they are literally a fundamentally horrific human being? YungBlud is not even in that argument at all because he publicly hasn't done anything bad. He often speaks about the rights of marginalized communities and tries to give people a voice and access to his platform. He often talks about social and political progression. Very good things, and are things I think society needs. However, people are like, well, if he is so against the corporate machine, why is he backed by these labels? I think YungBlud understands that this is a complex thing with many moving components, and being part of these record labels and having access to these big companies' backing strengthens his voice and allows him to project his voice to society. But people who critique YungBlud will be like, it's inauthentic, he should be doing it all independently. But my answer to you is, if you're so passionate about the independent scene, which I have no quarrel with, I think it's a real inspiring, community-led, amazing thing, just go check out like the hardcore scene. Literally, that is the place for you. You'll have a great time, awesome stuff, get amongst it. However, you want to be in the world of like the mainstream alternative universe with characters like YungBlud, who, by the way, don't call themselves punk or anything. They're going to be backed by large labels. And that, of course, does, though, create a balancing act for YungBlud of, making his shareholders happy, but also staying true and authentic to himself. And I think he is navigating that to the best of his ability, if we're being really honest. You don't have to like his music or like his sound, and that is totally fair because that's a subjective experience, right? However, he does seem to do a lot of positive things for his community. For example, at his festival, he had the make a friend stop for people that went to the festival and perhaps didn't know anyone or they felt lonely. They could go to this location at the festival and make friends. It's these little things he does where he's clearly thinking about his community and trying to create a safe space for them to enjoy the event. Now, of course, we know in reality, there were a fair portion of the people that went to this thing that didn't have a good time due to the lack of accessibility and basic things like water and sun cream, right? And that is a real good conversation to have about festival management. And this is not to take away Dom's accountability because of course he is the face of this festival. But it is clear that Dom is trying, right? Another interesting talking point that I feel is brought up because of YungBlud and BludFest is like the role of artists in moral leadership. I think because there are some people that have had a negative experience at BludFest, it has brought up some of the old hate YungBlud used to get a few years ago, where people are like, oh, he's just cringe, he's a poser, he's just so corny, I don't get why people like him. I remember also people used to make loads of TikToks saying he looks like he smells, which just isn't necessary, and it takes away from any validity in these conversations about authenticity and being a good person, basically. And like I said a few years ago, I was really on the side of, I think he is corny, I think he does state the obvious. And now I feel completely different from that, and I'll tell you why. Famously, we saw people like Matty Healy call YungBlud out, being like, he just states the obvious, he just stands for the things we all obviously stand for. And at the time when I heard that, I was like, yeah, Matty Healy has a great point there. YungBlud typically does just say the things we all agree with, but we don't always champion and such. And this is where the big difference is. You may already agree with the things that YungBlud says and think it's obvious, but some of the things YungBlud talks about, the world doesn't all agree with. So having this big public figure with a big platform who outwardly speaks about these things is a great thing for society. And I think the reason why I say older people, maybe people like YungBlud's age and older, maybe like he's corny and they don't relate to him, is because they see it as virtue signaling. But in this society where, like I said, so many people are having conversations of, can I still listen to this artist because they did X? Or can I listen to this artist because they did Y? And what I'm saying there is basically artists have done heinous things, and people are like, well, can I still listen to that artist? Who knows? But in this universe where YungBlud, as far as I know and as far as the public knows, hasn't done anything heinous or horrible, he is being dogged on and made fun of just because he's speaking up and trying to help the world, and you don't like it because it comes across corny or cringy to you. In that conversation, you are the problem. And that is me also addressing myself. I now realize when I used to critique YungBlud and be like, oh, he's just cringe, I don't get it. I now get it. I think it's nice for people to have these obvious signposts of humans that just spread positivity. It's very nice in this world that is very bleak, and most famous people are quite problematic. It seems power corrupts people, and this guy is coming in and trying to make a difference. Yes, is he backed by Creepy Old Man Incorporated, and by that I mean capitalism. Yes, he is a big asset for them, and they will sweat him like a machine, and they will profit off him being this alternative signpost for people to come to. YungBlud is aware of that he is an asset to the corporate machine. I don't doubt that at all. But at the same time, he is inspiring millions by saying, fuck the corporate bullshit. And by that, I think he means really question what's going on around you. He's almost like a sleeper agent that's trying to incite change from the inside. And whilst you can say in practicality it won't do a single thing, I still think it inspires people and gives people a place to feel empowered, heard and listened, and someone they can resonate with and look up to. Think like the Sex Pistols. They're widely known in the punk scene as being a orchestrated thing by Creepy Old Man Incorporated, by capitalism. They were made to profit off the sound, and boy did they profit off the sound. But within that, there's still the people that would have heard Sex Pistols lyrics and be empowered and felt good. And though the commercialization and the capitalization of subcultures is a bad thing, degrading what they stand for, there's still this portion of it which can be argued as good because people have a place, or they find a sound that resonates with them, and the messages in the music and such may make them question other things in life and may make them actually a politically charged person and a socially progressive person, which I think is a good thing. I think it's interesting, the more an artist seems to actively try and do good, the more they seem to be scrutinized. And the ones that don't speak up about anything, you're like, yeah, that's my boy, he totally gets me. Bro doesn't care, he literally just sees you as a giant cash sign. But the dude that tries to build a community, no, boo, hiss, boo, he smells. Okay, real good critique there. Nice one. And this is not me saying I'm the biggest YungBlud fanboy. I don't listen to him, but I don't have anything against him. And I think a lot of the criticism he faces is genuinely weird and unhinged and makes no sense. The guy doesn't claim to be super alternative. I think he's just an authentic expression of how he feels. If you want to be in the true alternative scenes, literally just get amongst them. Get amongst the proper DIY hardcore scene. Or, you know, get amongst the punk or the goth. Actually get amongst those subculture movements. But if you're critiquing someone that's in mainstream alternativeness, which is, by the way, the category most of us fall into, in practicality, there's very few straight to the core punks and goths left. I think why? Because we all enjoy multiple different things in life. No one wants to really just be one thing anymore, and that is totally okay. But if you want to be parts of those independent, real die-hard scenes, and get amongst them, like I said, really rewarding, cool things there. Got a great sense of community. But critiquing and holding someone to the same totality that isn't part of those scenes seems pointless and weird. Bro's a corporate baddie. He's gonna be a millionaire by the end of this. He's gonna be living it up on his yacht. Millionaire. Boom, bang, bing. And whilst you may have critiques about people being super, super hyper wealthy, fair enough, but in doing so, he's probably also inspired millions of kids and given them a place where they felt safe and accepted, which I think is morally a good thing to do. You know, if you're gonna operate within capitalism, which 99% of us do, if you can do that and also have a net positive experience you put out to the world, which it seems YungBlud is doing, boom, that is a great thing to do. Keep doing your thing. I am now overheating like a madman, so I'm gonna wrap this one up and conclude. I think YungBlud and BludFest in general serve as a reminder of the broader challenges and responsibilities faced by artists. While the festival certainly didn't go as planned with numerous logistical and wellness failures, it also highlighted YungBlud's attempts to navigate his role of a commercial artist and cultural icon. His efforts to maintain affordability and inclusivity amidst the backdrop of operational mishaps really reflects the balancing acts modern artists faced of authenticity and the realities of commercial success. I think this whole scenario really raises the question of how can artists be sure they truly stay authentic to their roots while scaling up to larger platforms. YungBlud speaks of true acceptance and celebration of everyone, therefore the spaces he creates should clearly show that. I think as fans and as consumers, it's crucial to continue this conversation, to actually openly speak about their things they like, the things they didn't like, so that the artists can create better spaces for all in the future. And just judging from YungBlud's character, though I do not know him, it seems he takes on board what his audience say a lot. So I think it can just be a real useful learning exercise for all. But now I want to hand this conversation over to you in the comment sections. Let's start discussing this, shall we? And like I always say, you do not have to agree with me. I'm always happy and open to have a discussion. And I think on the topic of YungBlud, it is a very interesting one where people have a wide variety of different opinions. So let's get talking and discussing. This is an open conversation. I've been your boy Cowder's Life. There'll be another video essay here if you want to watch another one of my videos. And I shall see you all in the next video. Okay, bye.